everybody. Welcome back to our weekly live stream. I'm Daniella Young, TEDx speaker, author, and organizational culture hacker. Every week, I do a live stream on Tuesday at 12:30 Pacific time, 2:30 Central, where I do a deep dive into culture. I have a blog post on the Cavness HR website, and I just get in here and chat with you all about it. So welcome back, and thank you for being such great followers. This week, we are going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is getting outside of your comfort zone. And we're talking about it for a very specific reason, because if you knew where I was sitting right now, you would know this is my bedroom, except there's no longer a bed here, because I am currently in the process of uprooting my entire life and changing everything all at once and just jumping out of my comfort zone. So I just wanted to jump in and talk with you about all of it. Okay, so what is happening is that my husband is retiring from the military. So we just sold our house and about 50% of everything we own, put the rest in storage, downsized immensely, bought a 43-foot mobile camper and moved into that. 2 weeks from now, we are putting that motorhome also in storage, and we are flying to Brazil for 2 months, which is super exciting. Now, some of you that know my background story know that I grew up in Brazil. Between the ages of 4 and 14, I lived, well, in a religious cult commune in Brazil, but in Brazil nevertheless. And, I think one of the interesting things for me was that childhood full of challenges, didn't get to go to school, dealt with a lot of abuse and different things. However, when I did get to leave my commune, I was in the beach in Rio. I had the Brazilian language, which is Portuguese, all around me, the amazing food, the people that are just so friendly and so lovely. And it was kind of almost a saving grace. I actually learned Portuguese pretty well, in part because it was an escape for me, because we weren't allowed to read anything that wasn't the Bible or the writings of our prophet. But there was a giant set of Portuguese encyclopedias in the house. And so under the kind of guise of I'm learning Portuguese, as a 12-year-old girl, I was able to teach myself to read and write in Portuguese well enough that I'm now raising my daughter in Portuguese. So it kind of worked out to be cool. Anyways, we are going for 2 months, and it just started off as a trip that we wanted to do for my husband's retirement. Part of the deal that I made when I said, yes, I will give up speaking English, my native language, to my child and only speak with her in Portuguese and do all the work that it takes to raise a child in your second language, was that we will prioritize as our family every 2 years or so doing a trip to a Portuguese speaking country. And life goes as it goes, and it's been almost 4 years now, and this is our first trip, but we're going and we're doing it big time. And of course, in the meantime, over the past 3 years, I've been on this journey of connecting with myself and my story and what I bring to the world and what my purpose for being here is. I've been on this path to become an international speaker and writer and thought leader, and everything's starting to come together now. And that's part of what some of the topic of this will all be about today. But I have had, this dream for a very long time that one day I will do a national level talk in Brazil in Portuguese, and that's going to happen at the end of February. And if you see the nervousness on my face right now, that's because I'm nervous. But again, this is why this is, stepping outside of the comfort zone. And I've spoken individually with many different people that I mentor about this, but I think it's a good topic to talk about live, which is, I got into speaking because I heard, it's in a book, but I was listening to it. It's a book called Never Eat Alone, which is a great book about networking and how it works. I don't recommend it on audio because the reader is the most boring person alive, but read it. It's a great book. But he talks about how they've done studies that show that across industry, people that do public speaking make more money. And as someone who was interested in making money, I immediately thought to myself, what am I an expert on? What could I speak on? And I came up with two things. I'm an expert at growing up in cults, and I'm an expert on being a woman in the military. And of course, expert is a whatever term. I know stuff about these things that might be worth sharing from a stage. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a speaker. I'm going to get started. And it wasn't much to go on, but I got started kind of doing what I call these days the free speaking circuit. If you are willing to get on a stage and you have something to say, somebody's going to give you a stage to speak on. I also discovered this thing that I now call front of the room advantage. And that is when you are the one on the microphone, everyone in the crowd assumes that you're cooler than you are. And that's not to say people on the microphone aren't cool. It's just kind of this psychology thing that I've noticed, right? When I'm introduced on a stage, I mean, they're reading the bio that I wrote myself, and everyone in the crowd probably knows that I wrote that bio myself, but it still sounds really freaking cool. And once I kind of consciously realized that that happens, that became another tool in my toolkit. And it's a great thing for any of you that are listening. Front of the room advantage. You can reverse engineer and you can get yourself on the microphone, whether that is giving a presentation at work that you wouldn't normally give, volunteer to do that, volunteer to speak at an event, just get the microphone and teach people a cool life hack or technology trick. There's a million ways you can do it. So I did two things that I think turned out to be important. I started speaking for free, and I put speaker on my LinkedIn, on my professional profiles. I'm a speaker. It's not a lie. If you've ever spoken in front of a crowd, you are a speaker. You don't have to be paid for it. And I teach a lot of military veterans that I coach this. People get frustrated when jobs or different applications ask for experience, and it's true. People don't want to hire a brand new person. They want you to be experienced. But I've never seen anything ask for paid experience. So this is kind of another point of getting out of your comfort zone. You know, I wanted to be a learning and development specialist. I wanted to be a speaker. I wanted to be a writer. So I just got out and started doing it. And now I'm getting paid to speak. And it is because I have 2 years worth of experience that people can look at, even though for most of that I wasn't getting paid. So it went, you know, I literally January of 2018, I put speaker on my LinkedIn and started going out and talking, which in my case was sort of the veteran world, anyone that wanted, I kind of feel like anyone that wanted a female veteran or a military spouse to speak, teach a class, do anything, show up at an event, take the microphone in the state of Washington. For the past 3 years, it's been me. And by June of that year, I was reached out to by the director of a TEDx conference asking me if I wanted to give a TEDx talk. And you guys, I almost said no. I thought the topic was a little bit outside of what I wanted to talk about, and I thought I was way too new at speaking to give a TED talk. But you know what? I decided I wasn't going to say no to that kind of opportunity, and I took it, and I'm so glad that I did it because I was new. If you watch my TED talk, I think I did a pretty good job, but I was also obviously nervous, obviously new. But I also found out that most people don't watch the TED talk. And when they do, they like it. But when they don't, the picture of me on a TED stage is worth, well, in this case, multi-thousands of dollars when I want to ask for a speaking fee. So again, stepping outside of your comfort zone. And I think sometimes we don't realize that we don't need anyone to give us permission to take the next step, to call yourself something, to go out and do what you want to do. I remember even with the writing stuff, I waited till my first paid article came out, and then I asked a colleague in publishing, am I allowed to call myself an author now? She looked at me and said, Daniella, you can call yourself an author whenever you want, if you've ever authored anything. And that was another very important realization. So many times what's holding us back is us. So turns out I, started networking during all of this time. I also I was still working at a corporate job, and I met some colleagues that were from Brazil that were visiting for a conference. And one of them wanted to know where to buy some baby clothes. And I said, please don't buy baby clothes. Meet me for breakfast. I'll give you 2 suitcases full of baby clothes. And did that just to help out a colleague, and thought nothing of it. And 3 years later, this man who I'm still connected with reached out to me and said, I've been watching your talks. I've been watching your stuff. I know you speak Portuguese. I have a Brazilian military friend who would love to talk to you about the work that you're doing. And so now, over the past 3 months, we've been talking, we've been building a following, and I just today found out that I have been officially invited to go to the School of Cadets, which is essentially Brazil's West Point, right there, where they train their cadets, in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and give a talk to the first group of women graduating from Special Forces training in Brazilian history, which is, super exciting, dream come true. And, it is that national level event that I wanted to do. By the way, I'm super scared. Super scared, super nervous, super worried that I'll screw it all up, but also very excited. And so, we're doing some so cool, interesting things that have come out of this. Tomorrow, I'm doing a live on Instagram with 2 different Brazilian military officers, and we're going to do a 30-minute talk interview in Portuguese, and sort of building jazz for all the stuff we want to do when we're down there. I've been invited to spend a day in Sao Paulo at the largest military installation, talking to their generals and their politicians about veteran transition, about what the U.S. does and has as far as government infrastructure and activism in the world of transitioning veterans, and what some of those problems are that we face. And just this whole consulting project that cross my fingers will hopefully come out of this. And the coolest thing is, who knows? Also, yesterday, my book proposal for my first traditional book deal went on sale. My ebook is going to publish February. My very own podcast is going to launch on February. And so this is kind of, as you can obviously see from my giant smile, a really cool live that I got to do this week, just to share a lot of this stuff. Of course, other than me being happy and excited, what is the point of this? So, a couple of things that I wanted to point out, and like I said at the beginning of this live stream, was just getting out of your comfort zone. It's important, and it's easy for, and I hear it all the time, for people to look over, and I think it all the time when I see other people's lives, and I think, oh, you're so lucky, or people say to me, oh, you're lucky you had this opportunity. But we make our opportunities happen, right? And you never get cool, crazy opportunities if you don't get out of your comfort zone. And, for me, that started off with all of this kind of started off with a crazy idea when I was pregnant, and my husband said, why aren't we going to give our daughter the gift of speaking multiple languages? And I thought, that is not something I'm qualified to do. Literally, I was like, I am not this good at it. I cannot take this huge gamble. But I did it. And not only is my 4-year-old daughter amazingly, perfectly trilingual and fluent, but I am now much more fluent in Portuguese and Spanish. And we've all learned so many things. We've had so many cool experiences come out of it. And then of course, this big dream of mine. So that's kind of, a good example of some of the things that can happen when you get outside of your comfort zone. But in any case, no matter what you're trying to do, but especially if you're some kind of a business leader, just I think it's so important, and it can never be underscored enough, that it's impossible to think outside the box, to be innovative, to fail and learn from failure, or do any of these things that we talk about all the time under the topic of culture and workplace culture. It's impossible to do those if you stay inside of your comfort zone. So you have to get out, you have to do different things. And so that's the message for today. So please follow me. February and March are going to be very interesting months, and I'm going to be constantly connecting with all of you. I have the goal to do a bunch of really cool live streams from Brazil with, some of them will just be me talking about different topics. Who knows what's going to come up? Others of them will be when I meet cool Brazilian guests who speak English. I'll have them on and I'll do some interviews with them. And of course, everything will come back to kind of topics of culture, leadership, and in this case, very much globalization, internationalism, how everything's connected, all of those great things. Who knows what the topics are going to be. If you do follow me on Instagram and you do speak Portuguese, I'll be doing a lot of Portuguese speaking guests as well. So stay tuned. It's going to be really cool. There will be a ton of really cool beach scenes, as we are literally going to just start in the north of Brazil and travel the entire Atlantic coast of Brazil based on recommendations that we receive from people. Of course, there will also hopefully be some really cool videos of, me giving speeches and stuff. So stay tuned. Once again, I am Daniella Mestenek-Young, TEDx speaker, author, and organizational culture hacker. This live stream is made possible by Cavness HR. Cavness HR is a virtual HR company that is innovating the world of what HR is, future of work, and all of that has to do with small businesses. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Ciao e beijos.